Do not let these folks just be the one dominant voice inside of the classroom. You have every right as a parent to know what your child is being taught and how they're being taught. You have every right to ask the questions. I would not be afraid to ask the questions and bring your own concerns to the school.
What do you got for me? Yeah, what do you got for me? Baby, would you stand and fight?
Mr. Adam Manka, welcome to Speakeasy Conversation. Before we get into our conversation about the lacrosse school board, I do want to remind the audience about a couple of really important activities that they can take right now to help make America great again. First of all, head on over to cooleyconservatives.com. Click the little buy me a coffee button on there. Because, folks, I talk about it all the time. It takes a lot of coffee to keep this operation running. And we're working hard here to make America great again. So head on over to cooleyconservatives.com. Click buy me a coffee option. Help fuel our efforts here. And the second, and even more important, folks, we got to get everybody off their couches and go vote in this spring election. It is critically important that you help us win this election. And every vote has a tremendous amount of power. It really, because there's not a lot of people who vote in these spring elections. So your vote has that much more power right now. So head on over to your polling place. Voting on Tuesday is 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And make a plan, make an actual plan, like figure out in your day what works out best for you. Is it like a 7 a.m. before you get to work? Are you going to do like maybe a long lunch and go take care of it then? Do you have activities after school that you have to get the kids to? Make a plan to get that vote cast, my friends. Maria Lazar, Judge Maria Lazar really needs your vote. And we're going to talk about some school board candidates who also need your vote. Actually, let's just jump right into that. Adam Manka, you're on the school board now. Talk to the audience. Tell them, who are the two candidates running in this school board election who deserve their votes?
Absolutely. My recommendation would be Deb Sukla, the board president and a great mentor of mine, and then Scott Neumeister as well. He is the king of the North Side, as we like to call him. Those two are really terrific, really great for our own school board, and honestly, like we really need it. And I think this discussion is going to show why we need it.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, that's a great point. So those two folks are really deserving of your votes. If you're in the lacrosse school board, like I said before, there's a lot of power in your vote. Your one vote could be the difference between, this continuing a good common sense school board or flipping it to the not common sense. The enemies of common sense are creeping, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and even show you some video a little bit later. But before we get to that, Adam, this is your first time on Cooley Conservatives. Tell the audience, what's your origin story? What got you inspired to take a leadership role in the school board?
That's actually surprisingly much of a loaded question, I got to say. If you want the full story, it might be an episode by itself there. But
yeah, this is a podcast. We can go for hours and hours if you want.
We'll go as far as we can. So I'm Adam. I'm 20 years old. I was elected to the lacrosse school board at age 18. But I really got my start. I didn't really think I'd ever be in the public arena per se at all until like later on during my own life. I'm saying like I'm not 20 years old, but but when I was 16 years old in 2022, I had just moved over to the district of La Crosse, was a sophomore at the time, and we actually had 10 school threats that year. And I basically got my start trying to protect our school resource officers as a student. And I got a third of the student body to sign a petition to keep our school resource officers during the defund the police movement. And we were able to successfully overturn the board's decision to remove our police officers inside of our schools. And from there, I really that was kind of like the starting point, what got me started into
that's some pretty powerful leadership right there.
I know. I did not know anything what I was doing. I'll tell you that. But throughout time, I've definitely learned a lot. And during my junior year was the 2022 referendum to consolidate the two high schools, which failed because we found out that the numbers were not adding up. There was not much consistency there, and basically the public was not being told the truth about how much the referendum was going to cost. And
Yeah.
during that time, my junior year, I've noticed there was an uptick of drugs being smuggled inside of schools, and it got to the point where, you can use the bathroom and you're going to literally witness a drug dealing inside of
Mm.
this. And so during the summer, I had this one crazy idea of, I'm gonna be a senior. I was 18 years old. I was bored and I wanted to do something my final year. So I went run for school board, not expecting to win it all. But I really went in during that summer, did my own investigation of the drugs being smuggled inside the schools, made my own report and found out that they were underreporting the drugs that are actually being inside the schools. And like I was very much concerned for the community right there. So I ran an anti-drug platform during my senior year of high school. And I mean, I'd say it was really God's work itself. I can't credit any of my skills or any of my luck besides just for God for having a seat there, but got
Well,
myself inside the
obviously
school board. So I've been
inspired you to
sitting
do it
for
that way.
2 years.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's get into like modern times. Just a couple of weeks ago, you were at a school board here. It's not a hearing; it's a meeting, right? It's school board
Correct.
meetings. I don't know why I was thinking hearing. Spending too much time watching the Wisconsin Supreme Court debates and stuff. But yeah, so you were at that school board meeting. Let me run the video and I'll share this with the whole audience because this is fascinating. Folks, this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with when it comes to the other side, what I call the enemies of common sense. If I can share the right screen, this one right here. And I know this is a couple of minutes long, folks, but bear with me. Life doesn't happen on a bumper sticker. It takes a few minutes to really understand what's happening in the world. So check this out, folks.
On to public speakers. It is the policy of the board to provide at its public meetings an opportunity for individuals to address the board. Comments about individual staff or personnel will not be allowed. Open meeting law prohibits the board from engaging in discussion and responding to matters that are not included on the agenda. All speakers are reminded that this same policy limits your time to speak to 5 minutes. This limit will be strictly enforced. May I ask the superintendent to keep track of the time and to notify the speaker when the time is running out?
I will.
Thank you. You are also asked to give your name and the school district or where you reside at the beginning of your comments and your time to speak for our public record. Our first speaker tonight is Greg Shams.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. My name is Greg Shams. I live in the school district. I'm at 2110 Redfield Street. I'm a taxpayer and parent of 2 students in the district. I'm also a proud public educator in the district. I'm teaching social studies here at Central for 20 years. I am not on social media. I prefer to avoid that garbage. But a friend of mine forwarded a Facebook post to me yesterday from Andy Parrish, which is posted on Saturday. And I learned that Andy is a conservative opinion writer for WIZM News. In his post, which I'm not going to elaborate on, it's misleading, and that's not the main purpose of my arguments. He basically says that voucher schools in our area, such as Luther, have better test results than public schools, and they also spend fewer dollars per pupil than the school district. And his argument was accompanied by a very colorful infographic. Now, his arguments have many flaws. I don't want to get into it in detail, but it lacks corroborating evidence. He omits important facts, context, and nuances between voucher schools and our public schools, but that's for another time. I'm concerned tonight by the response to this post by board member Adam Manka. Adam, I had you as a student in my class, and I remember you as a very intelligent young man, but the response you made to this post, which is forwarded to me, shows a glaring lapse of intelligence and a lapse of common sense. Mr. Manka responded to Parrish's post by saying, quote, I support the voucher program, and quote, I'm very tired of hearing public educators speak as if they own children. What an offensive comment to make about the teachers in this district. Now, his comments about vouchers, are also concerning to me for a number of reasons. The board policies state that it is a job of the board to, quote, ensure resources are available to provide excellence in education. Mr. Manka, by promoting vouchers, undermines this policy because vouchers take funding from public schools, which serve over 90% of students, including those in La Crosse. Furthermore, School Board Governance and Culture, section number 1 states, quote, "The school district of the La Crosse Board of Education, supporting the welfare of students, the interests of the community, and the work of the staff, represents, leads, and serves the citizens and holds itself accountable to them by committing to act in their best interest. Private school vouchers are not in the interests of the community, nor do they support the welfare of students. In fact, they detract from it by pulling money away from public schools and giving it to unaccountable private schools. So by promoting this voucher system, Mr. Manka is not supporting our students nor the broader community." Governance and Culture, section number 3, subsection 2 states, "The board will, quote, advocate for the district and the students it serves at a local, state, and national level." Promoting voucher programs is the antithesis of advocating for our public schools. It's advocating for private voucher schools instead. This is akin to Packers coach Matt LaFleur wearing a Vikings hat and giving Green Bay's plays away to the Chicago Bears. Governance and Culture, section 7 states that the board and its members will conduct themselves lawfully with integrity and high ethical standards in order to model the behaviors expected of staff and students and to build public confidence and credibility. Mr. Manka has not conducted himself with integrity as he is working against the interest of our schools and students while at the same time being an elected board member. His credibility as a representative of the school district is tarnished because of his promotion of vouchers, and it shines a bad light on the entire board, harming public trust. In summary, Mr. Manka, you obviously have your opinions and your First Amendment rights, but you are also an elected official, and we hold our officials to higher standards of conduct. Your comments promoting unaccountable private voucher schools while a sitting member on the La Crosse School Board are a disgrace, and your behavior has betrayed the public trust. For these reasons and those I've already mentioned, I strongly urge you to resign your post and allow someone else to serve out the remainder of your term, someone who has the best interest of La Crosse's children at heart. Barring that, I exhort Board President Sukla and the board to publicly censure Mr. Manka for his advocacy of voucher policies that directly harm our students. I refer to the board to Governance and Culture, section 9, subsection D. Are our public schools perfect? No. But are they great? Yes. And our collective goal as board, staff, parents, and community must be to strengthen our already great schools and not to undermine them in favor of unaccountable vouchers, which leach funding away from the majority of our children. Thank you for your time and consideration.
All right. There's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with this. He does mention that you were a student of his. Tell me more about that. What was it like? What did he teach at that time, and what was it like being a student in his class?
So that was during the pandemic. So it was during my freshman year. And like we were barely ever inside the school, so I cannot say exactly what his classroom was like.
Okay,
But
fair.
so I'll give him credit there is that I really can't exactly tell you exactly what it's like to be in his classroom, but he was an RA of a teacher. And like, again, he has his First Amendment rights. So do I. He taught and he got the curriculum done right there. I always had a knack for history. And I mean, mind you, he's a teacher for his own self, but I was very shocked to see him up there. And I had no warning he'd be up there at all. It's like, well, I can kind of see why our testing scores aren't exactly as high as they should be if that's the attitude we're going to have. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I will say this, there were a lot of times, one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to be on the Board of Education, why I ran, is because there's a lot of politics that goes on inside the classroom. And Chris, you would not believe me when I say it too. So whether you agree with the current political administration or not, or whether the ones before or beyond there as well, is that you were very much incentivized to have an opinion promoted by the left. And I'm in the opinion that does not promote excellence for any of our students. And an example of this is in my AP US history class that was during my sophomore year as well. We could not go through a single day without something bad being mentioned on some other prominent Republican. It's like, I don't even want to hear about the Republican or the Democrats in this classroom. I want to learn US history so I can pass my test and get my college credit. And Like there's a lot of examples for that too. So I guess maybe it's a good thing I was not in his class physically in person to see it there.
Yeah, no,
There's very much
that's
is
good
that
to know.
political culture there.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because as I rewatched this again, I think the third or fourth time now that I've gone through this, and I mean a couple of weeks have passed, so you know that initial emotion of it is kind of dying away. But I'm so struck by the deceptive and disingenuous way that he twists the meaning of some of those policies and bylaws or what they're policies, right? For the school board.
Yeah, their bylaws, policies, really the same thing. They're
But just the
providing the
way he's
foundation.
twisting the definitions of these things in order to promote his own just political agenda. You know, it boggles my mind. And the thing that comes to my mind is one of the things that Ronald Reagan famously said. The problem with our liberal friends isn't that they're ignorant, it's that they know so much that isn't so. And he is a glaring example of that. He was just making up these definitions of what those policies mean. So or am I off base? Is that, I mean, is that how you took a lot of, because he's trying to make the case that you're not following policy and therefore you should resign. Is that how you saw it? Like, is he twisting the definitions or what's going on here?
Well, I'm certainly not the only board member in the state of Wisconsin who supports the voucher program. Public schools
Right.
are a public entity. We are elected by the people to serve the public interest. And to say that voucher programs are not serving the interest of people. So, first off, let's tackle that already. I am not trying to say that public schools should be absolutely dismantled or destroyed and in favor for it to bring an absolute private class of schools what's going on there. That's not what supporting the voucher program means. One of the things you have to recognize is that each and every student has a different need. Sometimes it's better for their needs to be served inside of a public school. Sometimes it's better to be served in a private school. Or for me, when I eventually have children of my own, I want to see if I can even homeschool my children. I would love to have that ability there for them. And what the voucher program essentially is that each school district is giving funding at a per pupil basis. And that is, so for every single student you have into your classroom, that's more funding you get. And what the voucher program simply is that it's giving that funding towards the parents so that way they can choose what's best for their child. And so another thing I should also say for it too is that he also misconstrued my comments for it. He completely missed out the second half of my own comment I made in that Facebook post. And I barely ever comment on Facebook, so it was absolutely baffling for it too. But essentially what I said is that parents should be behind the wheel of their child's education.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I think everybody can agree upon. So
Well, apparently look, everybody who watches this podcast knows I have a mindset toward traditional American values, the liberty that created this country. People like him have a mindset that is closer to Marxism. They have a Marxist mindset, and I think it comes through right through his comments. I mean, you can see it. He thinks that the instruction of the children should be done by the government. He does not want parents to have a choice. And I think God bless you for having that mindset that the parents should have the liberty to choose how to educate their children.
right.
Or am I off base on that?
You're correct. And going further beyond that, a big part of my job is to make the La Crosse School District a district of choice for parents. We want them to be able to choose our schools, but it's highly concerning to me seeing the politicization inside of our classrooms where,
Good
I
point.
mean, we're talking about testing scores. It's harder to have academic excellence if we're mostly focused on the political talking points of today. If we are more focused on trying to bring these talking points to the students rather than teaching literacy or math to these students, they predictably are not going to be doing so well. And I think you're seeing this trend throughout the country here too, where we are
Yeah.
starting to water down our education. If you've seen the DPI reporting standards, there were times where they passed school districts. They said that this is passing without, what's the official language? I forget by it, but passing without any, it's completely missing my point here. But Essentially, the DPI says that they're just passing some school districts, but you look at their literacy rate where they're very struggling with it. There's a problem inside of there, and we're just trying to ignore that. One of my things I've been trying to do inside the school board is that I advocate against standard-based grading. I don't know if you ever heard of standard-based grading, but essentially what it is that instead of grading through the A, B, C, or a D format, or you go through by the numbers, if you get this much on a test, you get this for a grade. What standard-based grading essentially does is that it changes it to a 4, 3, 2, or a 1. And what has happened for that is that you don't get a grade for homework. You're not incentivized to do your homework. You're graded based off of test. And what they found is that students don't receive a grade until the end of semester or the end of the quarter. And even then, that's not exactly what's objectively put as a standard. It's what your teacher thinks you should get as a grade, despite your metrics. And this has been very controversial inside the school district. It burdens the teachers, makes their work 2 to 3 times as burdensome. It puts frustration on the students, particularly the high achieving students who want to get the best grade possible, because it's not transparent at all. And it allows what I call a culture of mediocrity inside the schools, where it's allowing kids to sit there, not do their homework, and get rewarded for it and being rewarded for the mediocrity.
Well, and I think it also calls out the reason why, and since COVID especially, when parents started to really see the kinds of things that are being taught to their children, it's the exodus away from the public schools toward more of the private schools, more of the voucher schools, because the public schools are not teaching them the kinds of things that parents know those kids need to understand in order to be successful in life. And so what bothers me more than anything is that you have people like Mr. Shams who come up there and make arguments, excuses for the public schools and the way the public schools do things, instead of fixing the problem and actually competing with the private schools. If they would just compete better with the private schools, I'm sorry, they would actually might have a chance of surviving. But if they keep going down and doubling down and tripling down on this kind of propaganda, more and more parents are going to leave those schools.
Right. And as they should be, as it's perfect for them to do. Again, my job is to make this district a school of choice for the parents. I want to see strong public education schools, but if this is how we're going to be talking to public board members to their face, what are they going to say to your children?
Yeah.
What are they going to teach them? And it's not about just trying to deny the talk. It's just simply by trying to open it up more.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we see right there. And
that's why I wanted to have you on here and talk about this, because instead of hiding that this happened, let's embrace this opportunity to show people the differences of mindset in the school board. I mean, there's some very serious differences of opinion. As I said, it ultimately boils down to, do you believe parents have the liberty or should have the liberty to choose where their children get educated? Or, like this Marxist who came up there using I'm just going to say it. They have mafia tactics, the way they bully and intimidate everybody. And these teachers unions are notorious for these kinds of things. But do they intimidate people, bully people into doing things their way, giving the government more power, forcing children into a monopoly public education instead of having a choice to get educated somewhere else? Those are the two choices that we see right now, at least in my mind. Or am I wrong about that?
Kinda. I'd say you're very close. Again, there are strong public schools out there where they don't go through this kind of, you're not going to see a teacher come up to the board and try to say they should resign from
That's a good point.
opinion. But if you want to see where the direction of public schools can go without good leadership, this is what it looks like. It's very important for our board members to be able to remember that we serve the people more than just the teachers unions. And I have good relations with a lot of teachers. And again, I want to make their jobs easier. I want to make sure they succeed. But this is not the way. I'm not going to tolerate this kind of conduct coming up there. And that, if you want to challenge the voucher schools, that's fine. But to shut down the conversation, that's not going to be tolerated.
Yeah, that's a really well said. And I appreciate you putting it that way too, because ultimately that's I think their intimidation tactic. They try to shut down the debate instead of actually having a conversation, maybe talk about why we disagree, but do it in a way that's not disagreeable. And I think I've heard people say that over and over again. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Mr. Shams showed that he's not interested in a debate. He just wanted to shut things down.
Right, correct. And I'd argue just by the response I think the community gave to him, it's was really offsetting. It's really eye-opening to see that in a public setting. And again, just to bring the point home, if they will speak like this to the board member to their faces, what will they do to your kids inside the school?
Yeah, well said. Well, and as you said, I mean, the way the community can respond right now is go vote on Tuesday. Vote in this election. Get Deb Sukla reelected. Get Scott Newmeister reelected. That will send a message back to these teachers unions that look, this is the way we want. We want common sense in our schools.
Right on.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time here. What other things can parents do if they really want to get engaged and help, with the best education for their children?
Well, the school district always has an opening eye towards hearing public comment. I actually just spoke to a couple of parents. They came in here. They were more concerned about the usage of AI and electronics inside of their children's education at an early level. And that's more of a nuanced discussion. What's going on there is how exactly do we teach how to use the digital world ethically in today's generation, where for me, I was mostly raised inside of the phones or inside of the computer screen.
Yeah.
So it's just simply what they did is that they just went up together, came up, spoke to the school district. They petitioned among their own parents, and they came forward and brought up forward here. I want to say, like, one of the things my job on the board is I try to listen to the parents very carefully. I ran on a pro-parent agenda, even though I wasn't a parent myself. But it's like if you want to speak about something on the school board and try to get something done or to help make our school accept more excellence, the first thing you got to do is show up to our own school board meetings or just know what's going on inside of your child's education
Yeah.
and come to us and share your concerns, share what works really well. Join one of our committees, I'd say. I mean, do not let these folks just be the one dominant voice inside of the classroom. You have every right as a parent to know what your child is being taught and how they're being taught. You have every right to ask the questions. I would not be afraid to ask the questions and bring your own concerns to the school and make it public. Don't let these people intimidate you at all.
That's well said. Thanks for saying that. You know what? It reminds me of something else I said on the podcast. I think it was last week, but this idea of as I opened up with the importance of this spring election and every vote, the power that comes with these votes. And I was talking about it in the context of my own county board seat that I'm running against the incumbent. The incumbent has a massive, massive war chest. He's got a bank account with like almost $1 million in it, I think, at this point. And the point I was trying to make, and I think it really fits in here too, is that the whispers of 1 million voters, parents who are interested in their children, in their education of their children, the whispers of 1 million voters is more volume than these loudmouths who show up at a meeting. But you have to do something. And to your point, getting involved in committees, parents getting involved in their kids' education, like going to the meetings, that is a major way to have an impact on their own child's education. So well said. I really like people getting involved in these activities. That's the first step, just being engaged. And also, kudos to the school the school board for having these meetings online and for people to be able to engage remotely. I mean, look, we're doing this podcast remotely. These abilities to communicate without having to go in person, because I know how inconvenient that can be. People have different schedules for their jobs. Who knows what's going on with kids' activities and everything. At least you guys have the ability for them to remain engaged in a remote fashion. So good on the school board for doing that, offering that option. Anything else you want to say? Any ways that people can reach out to you if they're interested in learning more?
They can always reach out. They can look at the school board website. They'll find my phone number and my email account. I'd highly recommend also reaching out to the board president, because maybe I should have started this off right away. Is, of course, just I am one board member. I'm not the entire board. I don't speak on behalf of the board. But if you want to come up and just speak about something you're concerned about, I'd happily take up the offer and listen to what's going on. Even if you disagree with me, even if you're on the opposite side of the aisle, there's always some common ground to find when it comes to wanting to achieve what's best for education. And I'd love to hear.
Yeah, well said. All right. Well, thanks for your time here tonight.
And thank you. Keep up the fight, Chris.
Hi, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like this content, then please visit cooleyconservatives.com and click the Buy Me a Coffee option to leave us a tip. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social. Oh, and you can get our content in your email inbox once a week by subscribing at cooleyconservatives.com. Thanks again. Take care and God bless.